How's it going, you guys? It's Scott with Everyday Home Repairs. Today I want to show you how to install a wall plate for your coax cable. Now you want to avoid this type of situations, which has happened to me many times over the years, especially on my rental properties, where a cable company will come over with some coax cable, doing a new service, maybe a tenant called them in, and they go in your crawl space or basement and they just drill up through the subfloor right under your trim and put that coax cable in the room. So this is not a permanent and definitely not a fit and finish install. So we want to get this up into the wall cavity and mounting that wall plate so it's a much more fit and finish look. So let's jump into it. Now I plan on putting a small printer table in that corner, so I'd like my Wi-Fi router and modem to go there as well. So I just want to check where my wall stud is. It's on the left side of that outlet, which I catch with this magnetic stud finder. And I know 16 inches on center, I'm going to have a wall cavity in the space. So that's exactly where I'd like to put this coax wall plate. I want a few other reference points, so I'll measure from this register so I can find that in the basement and know approximately where we're looking. So now down in the basement, we're trying to locate exactly where we want to drill a 1/2 inch hole through the bottom plate to get that coax cable up into the wall, and then that will connect to our wall plate that we'll be cutting in here in a second. I'm pretty lucky. I have actually an opening here. This was an old, it looks like vent, probably where the vent went through the wall. So they made this little box. I do have a small fire block or the top of that vent box, which I need to punch through, but I have this hole, and that's right where that coax cable was going through that we saw in the room. If you do not have that coax cable for the reference, again, use your other reference points. So I used the vent. I knew I 32 inches away from the vent, so I can reference that down in my crawl space or basement. I know that I'd have this Romex right behind me that would be going up to that outlet. So you get some of those locators to get you exactly where you need. And then when you get close, I would do something very similar to this, but I would just do a much smaller hole. I would drill a small hole under the trim down into the basement or crawl space, and then I would just use something like a 12 gauge piece of wire. I would feed that down through the hole, get that in the crawl space, bend it over so it didn't fall through, and then just let that hang down. It's gonna be much, much easier for you to find that location. Just know that that hole is right under your trim. So we wanna go in the middle of our bottom plate. Your bottom plate is most likely 3.5 inches wide. It's probably a 2x4. So you would need to go in the thickness of your trim plus half the distance of the thickness of the 2x4. So you go thickness of the trim and then 1 3/4 of an inch in, and that's gonna be the center of that bottom plate. Let me know if you guys have any questions down in the comments. I'll be happy to jump in and help you out. So for me, this opening's good. I need to drill up through that little blocking that was for the old vent. And then once I have that hole, I can go and I'm gonna start cutting out the drywall to place our wall plate, and then we'll fish the coax cable up and through. Most of your boxes here in your outlets are going to have a stud on one side or the other. Here I have a stud marked by my magnetic stud finder on this side. So this was the wall cavity we're going into. So we should be wide open through here. Now you don't need to use a full old work box. You can just use one of these low voltage brackets. And these brackets have 4 positioning holes, which you can use, and then those are spaced exactly correctly. So when you cut out the back, it is going to be exactly the right size. Those holes are a bit small, so I'll enlarge those so I can use them to mark on the wall where I want it. And after enlarging the holes, I'll mark 3/8 of an inch lower than the top of that faceplate. This is gonna give me a reference for this low voltage bracket. So I can mark those 4 holes. Once I have the 4 holes, then I can just connect the dots, marking all the sides that I need to cut out. Now you could use an oscillating tool with pretty much any blade, or you can use something like this jab saw. For a small job like this, I kind of like the jab saw. I take my time. I know I have the coax cable pushed up into that wall cavity, so I'm making sure I don't go crazy where I could damage that coax cable. And I'll cut out this last side and pull that piece of drywall out, and then grab my coax cable if everything's good. Then we'll go ahead and mount these just like an old work electrical box. We'll have 2 mounting screws. You'll twist those and tighten up the tabs on the back of the drywall to secure everything in place. Then down the basement, I'm gonna go ahead and do the final routing of my coax cable. So I know exactly how much slack I need now. So I'm just gonna drill a few holes through the floor joist. Always check the back of the floor joist when you're drilling. Make sure there's no water lines or Romex or anything on the backside that you could damage. So pulling that coax cable through, then I'll run it right along this floor joist after securing the Romex here to get it up out of the way. And then I'll just use the small 1 nail clips here for the coax, getting it over to where I want it. Now it's up to you whether you want to cut this to length and install a new coax end. For me, I'm just going to go ahead and coil up this extra length. Once I have it all coiled up, I'll just take some twist ties or some zip ties, secure that in place and put it right on top of this beam, and then fish my coax cable up and through. Then going back up in the room, I'm just going to connect the backside, tighten it just a little bit with a pair of pliers, make sure everything's secure, and then mount the 2 screws here. Take a little bubble level, just getting everything to make sure it's level and straight, and then tightening those and finishing it off. So that's it. Now everything is installed, and now I have a more clean installation where when the table comes in, I'll be able to set everything, shorten up this cable, and have a nice fit and finish installation. Let me know if you have any questions down in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel before taking off. We have these type of projects coming out weekly. Now for your project, if you actually want to cut that coax cable to length opposed to coiling it up, check out this video right here. I'll walk you through how to cut that to length and then get a new end installed correctly. If you want to see how to take an outlet and power from this outlet and relocate that on the wall without actually having to do any drywall, mudding, or painting, which is the key, and you don't have to go up in the attic or crawl space, check out this video right here. I'll walk you through the complete process. So thanks for joining me on this video, and we'll catch you on one of those next ones. Take care.